Be a little louder.
Yeah, there we go. I provided some information that you have in front of you just a little bit, but let me, if you kind of go back to 1996, okay? In 1996, that's when the town changed their development codes completely. It just went a whole different direction. The question was in 1996, well, there was a lot of developments already approved that you had to accommodate, and then there were developments that have been started the approval process but weren't finalized. What do you do with those properties? The solution was to zone them general residential. So the map that you see behind or in your screens here and highlighted in kind of a light yellow color, that was all of the properties that were zoned general residential back in 1996 when the new code came. And those, for the most part, covered existing subdivisions that were approved under a whole different code, either by Huntersville or Mecklenburg County. And then maybe some lots that were adjoining them were also zoned general residential, okay? So when you go to the code and you look at what is the intent of this district, so this tells you right up front, the intent of the general residential district is coded to permit the completion and conformity of conventional residential subdivisions already existing or approved in sketch plan form by the Huntersville Board of Commissioners prior to the effective date of these regulations or by the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Planning Commission under prior jurisdiction of Mecklenburg County. That's the intent. Then it goes on to say the application of the general residential district is not intended for development projects in the Huntersville jurisdiction which are initiated after the effective date of this ordinance, which was November 19th, 1996. The way it's worded might cause some confusion, but what the intent was is the community would not have processed GR residential zoning. It would pick the new zoning districts. And in fact, since 1996, there really hasn't been properties rezoned to GR. It was just building out what was already zoned GR. And in some cases, the GR changed based on situation. And we had one a month or so ago at the, for the daycare. So if you go to the next section D of that 3.2.3, it has the general requirements for the GR zoning district. The first part just talks about, you know, you can develop your plan unless your lots are, you know, much smaller and you own two lots side by side, then you start to combine them. So that's talking about existing lots. Number two is developments in general residential district are approved but not yet built or permitted to build with minor modifications through administrative process. So do understand there might have been subdivisions that had sketch plan approval in 1996, and we all know that there's usually adjustments there. So this is giving the right for adjustment to those by the administrative staff, right? So they can build out. Then the last one talks about in the absence of a subdivision sketch plan or preliminary plan approved prior to the effective date of this ordinance, the following lot dimensions shall apply. So in other words, if somebody had a larger tract of land that was zoned GR and they wanted to develop it, they could do so, but they had to have at least a 20,000 square foot lot, 90-foot wide lot, at least 40-foot setback on the front, 50 foot at the rear, and 10 foot on the sides. And if you were a corner lot, you had to have 20 feet. So that standard is set up for lots that were not in subdivisions. So the next map that I have, and I think you have that up front, this is the standards I was just talking about. So this is, if you see the orange line, that is a line around platted subdivisions, okay? So no matter what, whether it's zone GR or not. And then if you see it colored in the cream color, that's platted subdivision zone GR. And then if you see the brown area, the vacant lots, that is lots that are zone GR that are vacant. And for the most part, let's see, there's 603 vacant lots, but the overwhelming majority of those are in Norman Park. The overwhelming majority, they're just tiny little lots. And then there's various ones kind of spread out throughout the town.
Could you repeat that again? You said 603 and the overwhelming are where?
The 603 vacant lots are in the brown. So if you see the brown color, that's vacant lots. And most of them are just tiny little pieces here and there, but you'll see a couple of larger blobs, if you will, that are zone GR that could be residential subdivisions. So of those 603 lots, there's only 27 that are over 1 acre. So there's not a lot of GR property zone that is vacant and is over an acre, and it's hard to do a development at an acre. You need a lot more than that. So the point I want to make here is that, you know, the GR zoning that we have, the absolute largest section that we have is in the kind of the northeast portion of the town, and it's this tract, kind of highlight right in here. And in fact, what's happened is there is a rezoning request that you will be processing. Somebody is asking for that property to be zoned neighborhood residential, similar to what the adjoining property is, zoned neighborhood residential. So you can almost kind of put that one on hold because you will be determining what the future is on that tract of land. And so in our eyes, that makes a lot of sense, because for us to find out the vacant property out here and then the town of Huntersville sponsor a rezoning request, we don't know what somebody wants to do with it. It is far more advantageous for someone to submit a rezoning request, particularly a conditional district rezoning request, so that you, the board, the planning board, and the citizens know what's being proposed and determine whether or not it's appropriate. So that's one tract of land that is up there for development. There's some other larger tracts, but in reality, those are already surrounded by GR property. So for us to go in and zone it neighborhood residential where the lots might not match up doesn't really make sense. So again, take it on a case-by-case basis. So in summary, we recommend that the GR properties stay GR, and if somebody wants to do something different, then let them propose something and bring it to the town board, the planning board, and the general public to determine whether or not it's appropriate for that reuse of property. But truly there is not that many pieces of property that are in play, given that we've got 63 square miles and only 27 lots that are over an acre are zone GR. So with that, I am happy to answer any questions that the town board has.
Commissioner Hines.
Thank you, Jack. Of the 27 parcels over an acre, they are not in a subdivision? They're just standalone parcels?
Yeah, so I think I have that map. So these are everything in brown. This matches up with the other properties as well. These are over 1 acre. We identified all the properties over 1 acre. These are 27 of them. For the most part, the answer to your question is you're correct. That's not in a subdivision. There are a few that are actually in a subdivision that's kind of open space, but for the most part, they're just scattered about.
So by looking at this map, I mean, really, this one subdivision that's going to be coming in front of us that could be the last real large parcel
Yes,
that would be rezoned under GR.
That's correct. Yes,
Thank you.
that's correct. There's another one, kind of larger tract in the southwest of the town, kind of right here. That's kind of a good-sized tract, but what you can't see is that's owned by Colonial Pipeline. So so it's not going to get developed.
Thank you.
Commissioner Bales.
So I think this was a good exercise for us. One of the things that I'm still concerned about, and while I can agree and support to leaving this alone and letting them come to the board and vet through that process on what makes sense for that area, one of the things that I question whether or not we should stop and take a look at are the stormwater issues that are surrounding our GR zoning. I wonder in these other locations where these are sitting, if there's any issues in regards to stormwater.
Okay, so let me answer that.
Okay,
If it is Zone GR and it's in an older subdivision, they're vested under old code for stormwater. But if it is a vacant lot, Zone GR, and they want to develop, they are going to have to meet our current standards because it's going to be new development. So I hope that alleviates some concern that you might have.
it does, and yet it still leaves me with a question on whether or not we should be looking at it so that we're not being reactive to any stormwater issues and needs in these areas, and whether we should be proactive in regards to them.
Now, are you talking about retrofitting in existing subdivisions?
No, I'm talking about, well, anything that sits in an existing subdivision. So, for example, we've now seen, with the project downtown, there were stormwater issues. With the project over off of 73, there have been stormwater issues. And I question whether or not there's a pattern here.
Gotcha. So in both cases, they're meeting today's water quality standards. So both of those situations, the daycare and the town center project, all are going to be meeting today's stormwater requirements.
And I understand that. I'm just looking at the communities that these are sitting in currently
Okay.
and going, if someone doesn't come in to develop them, what's happening with their stormwater needs now?
So let me try to answer that. So the big tract of land that's in the northeast off McCourt, let's just say that the developer doesn't want to go NR. Let's just say, there we go. Let's just say they don't want to go NR. Let's just say they want to develop under these standards. They're still going. It's going to be new development, so it's going to meet today's standards. So even if they do the 20,000 square foot lots, 90-foot wide lots, they're going to meet today's water quality standards for the homes, the street system, all that. So does that?
I think that we're passing each other
Okay.
because my concern is what's currently happening in those areas and those homes that are sitting around in GR, and whether, they were vested into the old plan, but are they having erosion issues? Are they currently having
Okay.
flooding issues? And should we not then be being proactive in addressing those issues?
Right. So was Kevin here? Yeah. So to answer your question, we have an unbelievable number of lots that were approved before our water quality standards were established. So what happened in 2003 when we adopted new water quality standards, the town of Huntersville committed to, from that point forward, to improve stormwater quality that runs off. In exchange for that, Mecklenburg County agreed that we're going to go and try to get grants to retrofit existing sites. And between the two of us, the new development going forward and retrofitting, in 2017, even with all the growth we had from 03 to 17, our water quality improved, which is a phenomenal story. I mean, it really is. When you grow as fast as we've been growing, and then your water quality improves, and again, that was future development had to meet the standard in the retrofit for Mecklenburg. A good example is North Cross. North Cross Shopping Center, it used to be, they didn't have the stormwater. So you park your car out there, your oil drops, the rain comes down, it runs into the stormwater sewer system, and it goes out to the creeks. The developer, that was a retrofit. The developer agreed with Mecklenburg County to provide some parking spaces, turn it into sand filters, and you see them today. And now all of a sudden that's a retrofit. And so where I was looking for Kevin is, if we had erosion occurring in some of these areas that are already zone GR and there's erosion, we receive stormwater funds, and we can ask for grants to retrofit those areas. So that's how we're addressing the existing situations that happened prior to us having water quality standards.
So then it sounds to me like residents living in those areas, if they're having issues with their stormwater and runoff, then they need to be calling to let us know if there's an issue.
That is true, and I think that's what they do today, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mr.
I
Mayor.
just have, Commissioner Walsh?
Jack, I have a question. So currently in GR, there are some other buildings that can put by right, as we learned with the daycare. You could build a school there, a preschool, correct?
I'm only getting about 50% of
Sorry.
what you're asking, so
So currently in GR, there are some uses by right they can build. Schools, preschools. Turns out that a daycare wasn't by right. Is there some reason that we shouldn't tighten that up a little bit so that, we don't run across that again, where somebody by right can build a school in what might have been otherwise a residential area, in an area identified as an area that we were looking for more residential?
in my opinion, I don't think you need to do that. I mean, that land has been out there, Zone GR, from 1996, and before that, I'm not even sure. It might have been Zoned R3 or something like that. I don't know. And nothing became of it because nobody had something that would fit there or work there for a school. So, personally, I don't see any benefit for us to try to anticipate, well, this use could go there and it might not be appropriate. So that would be my response to you. You may disagree, but I don't see that as a problem. Again, as each track gets developed, again, there's only 27 of them that were an acre or more, and in some of those cases, they're right at an acre, just or 1.1 acres. So, you know, there's not going to be a whole lot you can do with that 1.1 acres.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
I guess do you need a head nod that you want to just keep the status quo or pursue something different? Status quo? I know we'll get a lot of calls tonight from the rain. Okay, thank you. It's good to clarify that. All right, we have a presentation. Huntersville is going to be 150 years old in a couple years. Who's leading this presentation? Commissioner Boone?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to start off by saying in less than 6 months, we'll have a year and a half to plan the 150th birthday for the town of Huntersville. It'll be in 2023. Something like this, something as important as this, has got to start being planned right now, in my opinion. And I want to first off start by saying these are not my ideas. These are a collection of ideas from 2 meetings of the Old Huntersville Historic Society and meetings with Commissioner Phillips. Thank you very much. Commissioner Lance Munger, thank you for your time. But I was the type of person that let's see if we got all these ideas and put them down on a piece of paper, and it's someplace to start. And that's my presentation tonight, is just a starting point where we have something to go on. So, Bobby, if you'll click the next slide. The plan that I heard and I jotted down is that it'll be a year-long program starting in 2023, and each month will have a different type of theme. And let's say if you're a month of January and you're a veteran, we would have somebody from the veterans folks in town. They would head up that committee for that particular month and for our other months to follow. We'll have to come up with some type of mission statement. What I again heard is that we would select a committee of citizens throughout the town, either from 11 to 15 members, to set the planning process in action. I would suggest that we select these committee members by July 1st. The suggested members, the town staff, at least 2, plus administrative support, 2 commissioners, Park and Rec, greenways and trails, and probably one of the most important would be Art Commission, and I'll touch on that in a minute. A couple folks from the Old Huntersville Historic Society, the American Legion, Pottstown Community, and 3 members from different sections of the town, Huntersville Fire, Police, and whoever I might be missing that we would add to that committee. I'd like to suggest the first meeting of this group would be August 1st. The town would come up with a proclamation announcing that a year-long celebration and come up with some type of sesquicentennial town logo where we would put this on the light poles, banisters throughout the town, logos that we could temporarily put on Huntersville vehicles, a logo tying in with Park and Rec announcing the 150th birthday of the town of Huntersville. And we've already had one meeting with staff, and that was May of this year. We went over just the highlights with the town manager, and this is kind of where we're at right now. If you go to the next slide, please. The next slide, please. The events that we've come up so far is in the month of January, February. You can read the slide for yourself. And the committee, they would fill in the particular months. And again, if we had a historic homes, whoever's in charge of the historic homes would have their own committee, and those 1 or 2 people from that historic homes committee would come back and report to the original committee. Bobby, next slide, please. The people that I think that we should get in contact with are Park and Rec, Fire and Police, the Old Huntersville Historic Society, the Huntersville Art Commission, and I think these people should be charged with coming up with some type of design that announces it and for this celebration of the town's 150th birthday. The American Legion, Latta Plantation, Rural Hill, Mecklenburg Landmarks Commission, local civic clubs like Rotary and the Kiwanis Club, historic organization, possibly CMS, the Herald Citizen, and Lake Norman Travel and Tourism. Maybe we can get some funding money from them. And basically, the ideas we've come up with, one more slide, Bobby, is to have parades for the Memorial Day, 4th of July, and Christmas. The concert park that we have, concerts that we have in the parks now, go ahead and tie in with some type of 150th celebration around that, and always has kid stuffs involved in any type of thing we do for the town. A run a walk event. Somebody came up with a beard contest. I think the police department would jump all over that. Pictures from the past, a quilt show, a car show, historic home tour, a scavenger hunt to find landmarks in town, banisters on the light poles, the town logo, the sesquicentennial commemorative pin, t-shirts, hats, etc., and possibly a time capsule, something that we could put together for somebody could open in 50 years from now. The tree planting, I think that could be something that the civic clubs in town could get behind, and what the next 150 years might look for the town. Somebody came up with the idea that we need to have an idea of traffic when we're going around the construction traffic with NCDOT. But Mr. Mayor, those are just ideas from everybody from different walks of the town, and I'd like to ask Commissioner Munger and Commissioner Phillips if they'd like to add anything to this.
Commissioner Munger, could you just add your 2 cents, I guess?
The only thing I'm looking...
Get close to the mic. Get close to the mic.
Huh?
Get close to the mic.
Closer, sorry. Yeah, I appreciate everything that's on here. The only thing that I see that's missing is something near and dear to my heart: fireworks.
Commissioner Phillips?
I mean, ditto on the fireworks. I mean, let's be real. For me, this kind of started back in January, and the whole purpose of bringing it to everybody else is that it's not about one individual sitting up here, but us working together as a team and a community. So I hope that if you guys have ideas and have ways that you want to be involved, we can do it as a team, because I think 150 years is an incredible thing, and the fact that we even get to start this is an honor.
So in closing, I'd just like to say, if this is something, well, Mayor, is this something the board wants to do? How are we going to handle that? And if the board agrees with it, then I think that, Mr. Roberts, if you could get us started on this as far as getting the applications for the town, if the board agrees to it, we can get started.
Well, I saw that August was open, and that's my birth month, so want to put that down?
Mr. Mayor, I think you got a lot on your plate for the next 48 hours.
Well, I'm sure we would love to celebrate, and this is a great kickoff. You know, timeline's a little tight, as usual, but that's good. So is this something the board would like to pursue in terms of opening it up for the public and setting those deadlines? You know, I don't know if July and August or what have you, but something to that effect.
Yeah, I mean, I just throw those dates out there, so just benchmark someplace to get started. But I also contacted somebody that we need, somebody that's going to be a good chairperson to ramrod this thing for a year. And I've spoken with this person and his wife, and they're going to get back to me here shortly.
Okay. So I guess my one question is, would you like to start the application project ASAP? Is that the
Yeah,
goal?
I think so. The sooner the better, sir.
Okay. Is everybody good with that?
I guess the question that I have is this, can we go back a couple of slides to the committee appointment? The next one, the one back behind there. For me, I'm not necessarily sure it is important for us to be on that committee as much as it is to get as much involvement from the community as possible. One of the things that I didn't see on here was trying to reach out to more of our business community to get them involved. If we're going to do a year-long celebration, which I am in 100% support of, I would really love to see, community, business communities like Burkdale, Rosedale, North Cross, our Chamber of Commerce, really get as many folks engaged as possible, along with more of our nonprofits. And you do have several listed there. And I think this is a great start. For me, I'd like to see just a little bit more of a holistic, whether it's the Raptor Center, just really engage everyone if they're interested in participating. And that's, where you've got to hone in and find out if where their interests lie. I like the temporary logo, but I would also suggest maybe we have a flag, do a flag contest and have a I'm going to always butcher it, sesquicentennial flag, Huntersville flag as a possibility there. Just to throw out an idea that I hadn't seen out there. But I think this is a great start to a plan.
Commissioner, those are all great ideas, and I kind of agree with you that maybe we could take the commission off of this and get some real strong candidates there. I think everything that you said is excellent ideas, and once this committee's formed, we'll be able to task them for their ideas too.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, 11 or 15? 11 or 15 people.
More the merrier. More the merrier to me. I would say 15, but whatever the board decides to do.
Well, let's go with 15. It'll be a big task, and we'll just have to put some structure around and then put the applications out. But definitely want it to be citizen-driven.
Absolutely.
And I'll get with MJ, and we'll figure out what the application needs to look like, because Parks and Rec, I'm sure, will be heavily involved. And we may get 1,000 applications, who knows? So if you want 15 or 20 or 5, that would be up to y'all. We can decide that later. I think Bryant wants to chair the committee anyway, so We'll get the applications out, and obviously probably won't be a July 1st decision because we're not having that first July meeting, but we'll work around all that and get it squared away.
But I do think that this is one committee that you can have the same person on two different committees. If somebody's on the Art Commission that wants to be on this, I think that we should allow that because we want to be sure that we have all the best expertise we can get.
Commissioner Boone, I think that's a great idea, having the Arts Committee, Greenway, having representation there. I think the other piece is to acknowledge that even if we have 15 members, that it's going to take more than 15 people to pull this off. And so each one of the people who are representing, whether it's a Rural Hill or a Latta Plantation or a Greenway Committee or Parks and Rec, that they're just the representative on that committee, but that they can go back and bring their group in and get them engaged. So I like that idea as well.
All right. Sounds like I got another committee. All right. Well, thank you
For a
all.
limited time, but we are going to have bylaws squared away, right? We need to work through to get bylaws squared away for this committee before we
Put some structure around it.
put some structure and an end date as well. Maybe it's the end date's the fireworks.
Does anybody know the exact date in 1873?
Janet was
Janet,
looking.
we looked in that today. Janet?
It's all right. Well, I'm sure we'll have that, hopefully.
Yes.
All right. We'll see you all in 25 minutes. Thank you. And how long is it gonna rain? The dogs down there?